So I know I've made my fair share of videos talking about how the Maple Leafs have been kind of breaking down. I also do know that they had won their previous game, so a lot of those videos, sure, the panic, the desperation, the freaking out kind of nature is not really there in the same magnitude than it was, let's say, a few games ago. But this Maple Leafs news right here, holy, this came out of nowhere. Morgan Rielly has signed an 8-year extension in Toronto, AAV of $7.5 million a season. And my first thought when I saw the Morgan Rielly extension was, holy crap, what a good contract compared to all the other defensemen that got re-signed in the National Hockey League in the past few months right here. Morgan Rielly, as we all know, 27 years old, so an 8-year deal brings him until he's 35. So this is pretty much locking him up till the end of his career, which for many Maple Leafs fans, hey, a lot of you were kind of expecting whether or not Rielly would be even returning to the team next season, whether in free agency or if he would actually have himself another opportunity elsewhere with a contract north of 8+, maybe even $9 million AAV. Because Rielly's only making $5 million right now, and he was making $5 million a season since 2016-2017. So, based off of the defenseman market, it would be fair to assume that he could have gotten a pay raise, right? Morgan Rielly, at his best, is a 70-point, 20-goal defenseman. However, the previous few seasons, he has not been as nearly offensively productive, which is not really a reflection of his own personal play. It's just kind of, circumstantial. He's the best defenseman on the Maple Leafs, so it's not really fair to say that he is a worse defenseman now than he was back in 2018-19. But what you get out of Morgan Rielly is pretty much a solid 40, 50-point defenseman who could maybe break out and get a lot more points than that once in a while, just like that 2018-19 season. And for the Maple Leafs to go out there and lock this guy up for another 8 freaking years, not only is a good move because of that amount of production, but just because of the player that Rielly is in general, and the profile that he brings out there on the ice, and the identity that he has, Morgan Rielly has been pretty much encompassed within this Maple Leafs organization and culture for the past, 2012 was, my goodness, that was 9 years ago. Can you believe Morgan Rielly was drafted 9 freaking years ago? If you want to go over the Maple Leafs and their cap structure right here, they have, if you take a look at next season, this is before the Morgan Rielly contract was put into the books. You can still see Cap Friendly still has his status for 2022-2023 as UFA status. It says they had about $12.8 million of cap space next season. And now, of course, with Rielly taking up 7.5, you take 12.8, you minus this 7.5, that becomes 12.2, that becomes 10.2, that becomes, $5.2 million remaining to re-sign Andre Kasha, Pierre Engvall, Jason Spezza, Michael Amadio, and then you have yourselves Rasmus Sandin, Liljegren, Jack Campbell, Michael Hutchinson, and Ilya Mikheyev too. So right away, you start to really fill in the cracks, I guess, as to the rest of the lineup and start to say to yourself, okay, one of Rasmus Sandin, one of Timothy Liljegren, one of Jack Campbell's probably going to be gone. The team only has about $5 million in cap space to re-sign everybody because Morgan Rielly is going to be eating up such a big chunk of that. And to be fair, as I said, the contract in comparison to other defensemen in the league who can produce at that same rate is really good. It's crazy that Kyle Dubas is actually able to go out there and sign a value contract like this for one of his star players. It's just when you take a look at the rest of the lineup, hey, other pieces of this team are going to have to get moved around. If you're going to want to keep Liljegren, you're going to want to keep Sandin, and if you're, lo and behold, going to want to do the impossible and keep Jack Campbell as well. Part of me thinks about Peter Mrazek and his $3.8 million AAV right here that goes on till 2024. Part of me thinks about some other players on this roster. I've seen people talk about William Nylander, but that's really not anything that I think you should be entertaining. But there are indeed some other options over here. Obviously, Nick Ritchie making 2.5 until 2023. David Kempf making 1.5 until 2023. You have a few other guys making a smaller amount of money. But at the end of the day, Morgan Rielly, the guy in our spotlight right here, is going to be going on till 2020. Okay, what in the world? I need to do the math here again. 2022, 2023 being the first season. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6, 7, 8, 2029, 2030 is going to be when the contract expires, making him the longest tenured Leaf in the system right now. John Tavares expires in 2025. And Mitch Marner does as well. Matthews expires 2024. So Marner and Tavares and Matthews, these guys, the big three up top, they're not even going past 2025. The fact that Morgan Rielly is now going on till 2030 is such a staple for this Maple Leafs team. And if you're really going to go out there and say to yourself, okay, this is the guy we want to lock in, this is the guy that we want to build this team around on the back end, hey, you've done that the past 9 years, you're going to do that the next 8 as well. Just comparing it to, let's see if we can find the active players list over here. Let's see if we can do that and search by the 2022-2023 season. We'll look for defensemen. Let's see if we can do that right here. Defense, and then sort it by cap hit, because that is what everybody loves to see over here. Oh, you can't really see the cap hit on the screen, but Erik Karlsson making 8.5, Drew Doughty making 11, Zach Werenski 9.5, Seth Jones 9.5, Charlie McAvoy 9.5, Darnell Nurse 9.2, Roman Josi 9, Cale Makar 9, Dougie Hamilton 9, Alex Pietrangelo 8.8, you have Miro Heiskanen 8.4, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, he's gone salary retained, so it's not really the same as his full $8.2 million AAV. But going down the list, Hedman making 7.8, Shea Weber, LTIR, of course, he's not really going to be there, Quinn Hughes making 7.8, Morgan Rielly getting 7.5 is just in that territory of a Quinn Hughes, Jared Spurgeon, and that actually is pretty solid, if I do say so myself. So the Toronto Maple Leafs have done pretty well for themselves, I believe. Morgan Rielly going out there and getting this contract is a great deal for him. We know he said himself he wants to be a Maple Leaf, he wants to remain a Maple Leaf, but he did note that there were business elements to these contract negotiations that he couldn't just talk about in the media. It's kind of crazy because the last update we had was saying that, the two sides are not close, they're not negotiating, stuff like that. Especially with the 12 point whatever million dollar AAV space that it was projected the Maple Leafs were going to have. Oh, here we go. Morgan Rielly's contract is now officially on the books on Cap Friendly. So you can see this one going until 2030. So now the Maple Leafs, if you take a look at the numbers, they have about $5.3 million of cap space for next season to re-sign those same guys. Sandin, Liljegren, Jack Campbell being the big ones. And then, of course, you still have Pierre Engvall, you still have Ondrej Kase that you need to talk about too. Talk to me in the comments. What happens with the rest of these Leafs, and what happens with the two defensemen that I want to see? Those are the two that I think are probably the most interesting, aside from Campbell, of course. Campbell is a lot more, let's just say, precarious, because I think everybody has been kind of priming themselves with the idea that Campbell is not going to return. But for Morgan Rielly, hey, what do you think about this contract? I think it's actually really good comparative to the other defensemen in the NHL. It's a great comparative as well to the rest of this gosh darn Maple Leafs and their forward core, because just seeing Kyle Dubas able to get a value contract, I think at this point, it's absolutely huge for one of the top guys on the team. So let me know in the comments all this stuff. Morgan Rielly's contract, what do you think about the rest of the Maple Leafs? Campbell, Sandin, Liljegren, Kase, Engvall, who stays, who goes? How do you use the remaining $5 million in cap space? Do you make more cap space by trading any of the other expensive players? Not even really expensive, but just beefier players, I guess you could say, because Nick Ritchie, 2.5, certainly not an insignificant amount of money. Alexander Kerfoot, 3.5, not an insignificant amount of money. What do you do? What are the options here? Let me know in the comments all your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.